Hey, Pure Soul members, welcome to the month of March. I can't believe we're in March of 2023 already, but I'm really glad that you guys are here with me today, and I can't wait to share the spiritual focus topic for this month. Before we get started on that, though, I do want to share a few Alma Pra updates with you. Just a quick reminder that our Ask Nikki Zoom will be held on Thursday, March 16th at 6 p.m., so I hope to see you there. I hope you guys can join. During our Zoom this month, we will focus some of our time together discussing our favorite books. I just thought this would be a really great idea. If you could share with the group, what is your favorite book? Why is it your favorite book? How did your favorite book impact you? And if you had to convince me to read it, what would you tell me about it? I can't wait to hear about all of your favorite books. I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was telling me about a book she read and how it impacted her. And then I was telling her about one of the books I read and how it impacted me. And everybody's curiosity got going, so I read the book that was a book that she had read, and she read a book that I had been talking about, and it really made for great discussion. And so I thought, why don't we do that in the Pure Soul? And if you guys like it, maybe we could read a book as a group and talk about that in our monthly Zoom, spend a little time on that. I thought that would be a good thing to get started if you guys are interested in that, and if you're interested in reading books. I already have 2 books that I'm trying to decide on which one is my favorite and which one I'd like to share with you guys during the Zoom. So I hope you'll participate in that. It feels like it could be really a lot of fun. Also, don't forget that the Mentor Me coupon code is good for $50 off of a mentorship session, and it's valid until March 31st. I hope you guys can take advantage of it. In April, I'll be discounting some other services. If you guys have a preference for discounts that you would like to see, let me know, and I'll put those on the list to make sure we can get them scheduled and get your discount that you are specifically looking for if you are. Also, I do want to say thank you to you guys for participating and being part of the Alma Pra Pure Soul community. It makes me happy to share my time with you and to share spirit with you and to share with you the things that I have discovered in my journey with God, and I'm really excited when you guys do the same. So this month's spiritual focus topic, let's talk about that. I am going to title it Spring Cleaning. Spring cleaning happens in the spring, right? And we're in the spring. So I thought we could do that. I thought we could spend a little bit of time discussing spring cleaning on our own self. I remember when I was a little girl, my mom would love, and I mean like love, when springtime came, because everyone had to pitch in to do spring cleaning. I don't know when she made this decision for us, for my family, but literally ever since I was a little girl, I remember, around February, early March, my mom would be walking around saying, I can't wait to get rid of this clutter. We're going to have to spring clean this house. And she would just repeat it. And we knew it was coming, We knew that it was getting to be time where we would have to do some spring cleaning. And that's kind of what we all feel about ourselves when we get cluttered up in our energy, or when we're feeling lower or down or sad, or we can't get things moving in our life, or we might feel like things are all like Groundhog Day. And so that's why I think spring cleaning can be applied to our inner Trinity as much as it is to our outside world. And when we did spring cleaning when we were little, when I was little, we literally cleaned everything, like every wall, every window, every pipe under every sink, every baseboard in every room of the house, every fiber of every carpet and tile grout that could be cleaned. We cleaned it. And it was a process, and it took time to do it all. So when we think about spring cleaning our own energy or our own inner Trinity, it's not going to happen in a day. It's going to take time, and it might not be easy. My mom was the one that was thrilled about the spring cleaning, but the rest of us dreaded it, because nobody wants to clean on a pretty spring day. Nobody wants to donate clothes or toys that they might want to use the day after they give it away, and nobody wants to clean the bathroom. It's one of the hardest rooms to clean, or the kitchen. I always got stuck with the bathroom, FYI. But in any case, we can't assume that when we're cleaning our spring cleaning our inner trinity or our energy, that's going to be pretty. It's not going to be pretty. It's going to be difficult. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of stress, when you're done though, you feel amazing. You feel refreshed. You feel happy. I remember when I was a little girl and we would be all done with the spring cleaning, like, we all felt great, man. My mom was so proud of us, and she would buy us things, and it was like everything looked brand new. Like the walls were clean, the house smelled good, the closets were organized, there was no clutter laying around. We donated a lot of things to people that needed it. And one of the best things that I discovered about spring cleaning is I didn't like, okay, so like you're living your every day and you put things in a drawer, you put things in a closet, and you kind of forget about them. And little toys or little trinkets or clothes that I completely forgot I had, they were like rediscovered again, and they felt brand new to me. So to me, the best thing about spring cleaning was that I rediscovered so many beautiful things that I had that I forgot I had until I got rid of some of the clutter. And so that's our goal too with our inner trinity, is to get rid of the clutter, because there's things buried deep in there that we forgot that we forgot about those extra beautiful parts of ourselves, because we have so much clutter and so much heaviness on it that we can't see it really anymore. And we want to rediscover that. We want to get all the gunk out so that we can feel new and feel refreshed and feel proud of ourselves. And I think that since we're in springtime and it's all about refreshing and awakening and becoming new, and we are in the season of Lent and Jesus's resurrection, which is a promise to make things new, now is the time for spring cleaning on our soul to begin. And I'm already planning my strategy. I know it seems like spring cleaning is like for our houses and for our cars and stuff, but that's just one side of that process. And as you've heard me say, that we are an inner trinity. We're an analytical self, an emotional self, and a physical self. And sometimes life just gets really hard and life just gets really overwhelming. And sometimes we don't know what to think. We don't know what to do. We don't know what to feel. Things get cluttered up in our energy. And in the relationships that we share with ourselves, the relationships we share with other people, when the inner trinity isn't in sync, every aspect of our life can be affected by that imbalance. So I figured this month we should take my mom's advice and do some spring cleaning on our inner trinity to get rid of the clutter. So before we get started on that deep dive into the inner trinity, it's important that we center ourselves. So here's just a couple examples of how you can center yourself. And I suggest doing this for each part of your trinity. So to center the inner trinity, begin by taking a breath, 3 deep breaths. You're going to inhale your breath for 7 seconds, and then you're going to hold the breath for 7 seconds, and then you are going to exhale the breath for 7 seconds. So it will kind of be like this: inhaling, holding, and exhaling. So inhale for 7, hold for 7, exhale for 7. Do that 3 times, 1 time for each part of your inner trinity, and that will kind of align your body and soul energy to itself, and this is good. We do want to do this. Then we want to, once that's complete, then we want to do a little small meditation for 60 seconds. One of my favorites that I like is called Peace Begins With Me, and it's nice because you use the palms of your hands and your fingers, and you can track, as it's easier to follow. So here's how you do that. The words are peace begins with me, and you can hold your hands like this and you can say peace begins with me, peace begins with me, peace begins with me. And as you're doing that, be mindful of your breath. Inhale, hold, release, repeat this phrase to yourself. Do this for about 60 seconds, and that actually will align your analytical self, your emotional self, and your physical self all together. You're saying words, and that's analytical, and you're encouraging the heart to know that peace is available, and then you bring it into your root chakra when you say that it begins with me. So try that, and that will kind of center you into a place where you can begin to do this deep dive. So let's start with the analytical self, and when we want to spring clean our analytical self, we start by becoming an observer to our own thought processes. Like, basically the question is, how do you think? And some of the questions to do that inquiry into the self are questions like this. These are the things you want to review with yourself after you're centered. Do you tell yourself things to do and then you do not do them? Do you have repetitive thoughts that seem to consume your mind? Do you have a hard time keeping your mind focused on something? Do you argue with yourself or tell yourself negative things? Do you worry about things in a way that limits you or makes you feel unable to accomplish your goals? What is your decision-making process like? Do you go back and forth when you're trying to make decisions? Do you have recurring thoughts that you would like to stop, but they don't? These are just some of the questions you can utilize to do that inquiry into the analytical self. And when I did this exercise for myself, I found that my thought process is a mixture of a couple of those options. So I do tend to tell myself to do things, so many things that I actually become overwhelmed, and then I do nothing. So then when I do nothing because I'm overwhelmed by all of the things I'm telling myself to do, I bounce into this like negative self-talk mode. And when I end up in the negative self-talk mode, I tend to feel limited, unaccomplished. I kind of start to feel incapable. And so having this awareness of the way that I think and how I think, the best way to address the analytical self is to put a plan in place and hold ourselves accountable to that plan to change the habit of the way that we think. So in doing these questions, what we're actually doing is reviewing our thinking habits and coming up with a plan that will change up those bad habits. So for example, if I know that I ignore the inner prompts of my spirit, which lead me into repetitive thoughts that I can't stop, which inevitably makes me feel useless, limited, and unaccomplished, then I know the key to stopping the downward spiral in my brain is to just do the thing that I have that inner prompt for. If, do your laundry, I get up and do the laundry. And this helps me to avoid the negative self-talk that I do with myself because I didn't accomplish what I was supposed to accomplish and I should have done that. If I find that I'm like dominantly a negative self-talker, then I have to address every self-talk topic in my brain. So if I'm telling myself I'm ugly and old, then I need a plan that's going to address that. So maybe I can begin a skin treatment plan to reduce fine lines on my face, which I did, by the way, or maybe I can find fun things to do that make me feel young again. I can exercise more. That will make me feel younger or feel like I look younger, and I'm still working on that one. I keep telling myself that when the weather is better, I'm going to walk more, and I have to make sure I do that. The idea, though, here really is to make a plan to change the way you think, to hold yourself accountable. And you'll be successful if you can do that. I used to be a very obsessive thinker. Things would just consume my mind to the point where I couldn't think of anything else except whatever obsessive thought was plaguing me at the moment. And a few years ago, I realized this about myself. And so I made a plan. And I told myself I would do this, that anytime an obsessive thoughts would come, I would spend 20 minutes thinking about that thought. and then I would push it out of my mind by intentionally focusing my thoughts on something else. I decided I would listen to a podcast to distract my mind. I would also visualize like a steel door coming up and blocking that information. I would visualize the information, the obsessive thoughts coming, and then I would redirect them visually so they would leave me. And I did this quite a bit to try to change that obsessive thought process. And what I found is that it works. Initially, you have to make yourself change these behaviors, but after you practice this, maybe 7 to 10 times, you're going to start to notice that your brain begins to get conditioned and it automatically starts shutting the door on those negative thought processes. So basically what you're trying to do in a spring cleaning of your analytical self is discover how you think, break it down into smaller pockets of information, make a plan for the process of your thinking to have it become the way that you need it to become so that it's easier for your inner Trinity not to get overwhelmed in the mind. Not to be obsessively thinking or worried or concerned. If you do this, I promise that this will make a huge difference because you are actually, in essence, retraining your brain. The next part of our Trinity that we want to take a look at is our emotional self. So to spring clean your emotional self, you have to make a list of like your recurring emotions. What are these recurring emotions? And we all pretty much have a standard set of emotions that invades our life. So some of my standard emotional responses are feelings of abandonment, confusion, rebellion, sadness. These are my standards. These are the ones that I find that when I do that deep dive into the emotional self, I realize that there's some repetitive feelings. I kind of sit down at the end of the day and I'm like, oh, I'm always feeling that. Why does that always happen to me? So when you're going to do this for the emotional self, think of your repetitive emotions that tend to crop up. Are you always feeling abandoned? Are you always feeling inadequate? Are you always feeling lonely? Are you always feeling confused? Are you always angry or rebellious? Like, try to identify what is your standard set of emotions, and that's the best way to begin this, is to figure out what they are. So let's say that you have unworthiness as one of your standard emotions. You want to take that standard emotion and you want to say, okay, how old was I the first time that I felt this particular emotion? What situation or person taught me about this emotion? So for example, if my dad kicked me out of the house when I was 7, that's the first time I remember the feeling of abandonment. Every time abandonment is triggered in my life, I become like emotionally 7. So if you can come up with those standard emotions and you can do that dive into your emotional self and figure out how old were you around the first time that you felt that, then you know your emotional age when that emotion is triggered later in your life. And it's difficult to deal with those emotional triggers because our brain is our current age, but our emotion is the age that we were when we learned about that emotions. So our emotions are learned once. We learn our emotions once. And then after that, they are triggered. They're not brand new. We've had them before. But since the emotions don't age, they seem difficult to cope with the older we get. So there's a couple different options to help with the emotional self. You can take the Alma Per the Beginning workshops, which is a deep dive into the body-soul relationship, and this will totally help with that. You can also make a list of your standard emotional responses, and then you can track where you learned them so that you can have the opportunity to heal the inner child. We did discuss a process called add-ons in a previous video, and that's used to heal the inner child of those trauma experiences as children that that hold emotions to it, that those emotions, they keep popping up even if the situation is different. So if you want to look back at the spiritual focus topic, you can do an add-on to heal the inner child. The other thing is that you can just come up with a plan that every time such and such emotion is triggered, this is going to be my response. So, for example, every time I feel a trigger of abandonment, I will do the following. Every time I feel the emotion of sadness, I will jump up and down 10 times because for some reason it gets rid of that feeling. You get the point. That's how we want to address the emotional self and try to do that deep dive and spring cleaning so that we can either do an add-on and heal the inner child, or we can come up with a plan that will take us away from the impact trigger of that emotion, like by jumping up and down 10 times, or maybe you like to paint, and so that every time I feel sad, I'm going to paint. Every time I feel anxious, I'm going to run around the block. Something that will kind of help you to step away a little bit from the trigger of the emotion. The emotion itself is okay. It's just difficult when it's triggered because it brings us to a time that we were so much younger. And then if we don't settle that, our brain becomes younger and our reaction becomes younger. So I thought that would be a beneficial practice for the emotional self. Now we're on to the physical self. So to spring clean your physical self, ask yourself about your physical habits. Are you a smoker? Are you a drinker? Do you exercise? Is your skin dry? Do you use lotion? Have you been exercising? Do you take care of your body? Do you eat healthy? Spring cleaning of the physical self is probably the easiest plan to come up with because it's kind of obvious, like eat healthy, exercise, don't smoke, don't do drugs, don't eat too much, don't eat too little, make sure you get sunlight, plenty of vitamins and water. So we know like the obvious things about the physical self, but some people, and some are really good at this, like I am not. This is probably my biggest challenge. I can spring clean my emotional self. I can spring clean my analytical self. Like I don't have any problem doing that, but I do have a problem spring cleaning my physical self for some reason. Sometimes the plan that I made to spring clean my physical self is you may want to do like a system cleanse. You may want to intermittently fast. You may want to eat smaller meals during your day or healthier meals. You may want to take a walk every day. Whatever it is that makes your body perform at its best, that's the plan for you. Think about it like this. What would you do with your vehicle? What maintenance does your vehicle need to keep it running at an optimal level of performance? Figure that same thing out for your body and you're home free. Keep in mind that having an organized and uncluttered work and home environment makes all the difference in the world. For me personally, it really does. In order to do the spring cleaning and the deep dive into the inner Trinity, my house has to be clean. So I'll actually do actual spring cleaning on my house because that makes me feel better, makes me feel calm, it makes me feel peaceful. I'm also going to do the centering and the meditation that I shared with you, and that's going to get you on the right track to feel brand new, to feel refreshed, to feel awakened. And I also have to share that in addition to everything that we just talked about, there is one surefire way to spring clean our inner Trinity and to make all things feel new, and that is Scripture. No matter what religion you practice or what your faith base is, head towards Scripture, as God has a way of making all things new when we believe and trust in Him and His Word. Revelations 21:5 says, "Behold, for I make all things new." And that's what we're trying to do. We just want to get rid of some of the clutter. We want to open up our hearts and our minds, and we want to share ourselves with others, and we want others to feel comfortable to share themselves with us. So Happy Easter. I don't know if I'll see you guys before Easter, but happy spring cleaning. And I really appreciate you spending this time with me today. I hope to see you at our monthly Ask Nikki Zoom on Thursday, March 16th at 6 p.m. Don't forget to tell us about your favorite book. I can't wait to see you guys, and let's inspire each other. Bye.